Yes, it's 10 minutes past. I'm here more to give my personal experience. The experts here are actually Roy and Mike, because Roy is a creative and marketing genius, despite the madness you hear on radio. And Mike, of course, founder of Wowzy, who will answer a lot of your questions. I don't know if I missed it, but one of the questions I didn't hear from all the content creators is, how can I make more money? I thought that would actually be, did you ask it?
I hate that.
You have that written down. I thought that would be the first question. How can I make more money from my content creation? But first I have a question for everybody here, because becoming successful or being able to make money from content creation, you have to first build a brand. My first question here is, how many people here are Gor Mahia fans? And you can shout if you are. Any Gor Mahia fans? Not even my friend from the lakeside. Any AFC Leopards fans? Shout, I want to hear your voice. Shabana?
Oh, yes.
Kakamega Homeboys? Arsenali?
Hey.
Manchester United? That's what I'm talking about. In 1991, leading up to the advent of the Premier League, which we call the English Premier League, it's actually the Premier League. They are such a big brand that they own the name the Premier League. The rest of us have to either put a language or put a title like FKF Premier League. But for understanding and communication, I'll call it the EPL. Leading up to 1991, they had a deal with Sky News to build a football brand and a football league so big that the best players in the world want to play here. Every single fan wants to watch it. And they had a deliberate effort from Sky News, who were the first partners of the Premier League, to develop the English Premier League to what we know it today. They made a deliberate effort to tell positive stories, deliberate effort to highlight what would attract both corporate investment and the fans. And as we all know, it was successful. Right now, the brand is so big that other broadcasters in other continents pay big money to get the rights. They're so big they can charge anything for ticketing and get full houses. They brought in the corporate funds. They're so rich that the best players in the world want to play in the Premier League. Not because it's the best league, it's the best marketed league. But because of that, they're able to build it to such a position where, apart from, I think, Messi and who else, is one of the top players in the world who've never played in the Premier League. Most of them have, because that's where the money's at, that's where the viewer's at. And it was a deliberate effort to build that brand. Shame on us when we can't shout for Gor Mahia, AFC Leopards, Shabana. Who's going to build that brand? Radul can't do it alone. We have our stories that we need to tell to develop our own brands, both individually and as a sport. I find it a little bit disturbing when we learn about our superstars from foreigners. Beatrice Chebet, we're in the home of champions. I cheer for that, we're in the home of champions. The city, the city, I apologize. You know, me and my lakeside friends, we've been in the city for long. Sorry, I boast when I can. But when we hear about our superstars, maybe not here in Eldoret, but in Kenya as a whole, we hear about our superstars from foreign media. We hear more about Faith Kipyegon. If you ask a Kenyan who doesn't follow sport, they'll tell you actually Faith got more medals than Beatrice Chebet, for example, but she didn't at the last Olympics. I think they got the equal number of medals, but Beatrice got 2 gold. Faith, I think, got a gold and a silver. I remember something that Anyang Nyong'o told us in the 90s. He said, Catherine Dereba, my generation know her, I'm not sure about your generation. Catherine Dereba cannot walk in the city of New York. She will be mobbed by fans. Catherine Dereba can walk in right now and maybe 3 of us will know her. We have stories. We have stories that can build our nation. We have stories that can build our sport. We have stories that can build ourselves. Look at what somebody like Fabrizio Romano, who knows who he is? Huh?
Is the legit.
Here we go. Do you know how much money Fabrizio makes in a week? $100,000. $100,000 a week. He's a sports journalist like me and you. Whatever he says is true. He has built a brand and the credibility of being the source for sport news in the world. He has 45 million views every week. That's how big he is. Who's this guy we are bringing to Nairobi? Hopefully, Robbie Lyle. Robbie Lyle right now I think is worth about $500 million shillings. It's about between $3 and $5 million. That's his worth. His reach on YouTube alone, from asking Arsenal fans one question: what was the game like? What's your opinion? He has managed to build a worldwide brand through Global TV. It's called Global Fan TV. These are just fans of the game. People have moved. In fact, journalists were in trouble. What social media has done to us is create fan journalists, fan content creators. They're fans who make more money than me and you on social media. They've never entered a media school in their lives, but they're making the money because they have found a passion, they've built the credibility, and they're consistent. And I'll leave a lot of that digital media expert information to come from Mike. Roy will talk more about brand building. I started my journalism career about 30 years ago. Yes, I've been working for longer than some of you were born. It was traditional media. I started at Reuters, worked there for about 2.5 years. I worked for BBC World Service, covering regional news, post-Rwanda genocide. I covered financial reporting. I remember when I was at Reuters, my big brother was Manoa Esipisu. I think he's the High Commissioner of the UK right now. He was my big brother. My first trip to Parliament ever was with Manoa. And I learned a lot of what I did when I was a political reporter from him. When I joined Radio Africa in 2000 and found Ray there, I did hard news for many years. I was just a sports fan. So in 2006, when the opportunity came to host a Saturday sports show, I was like, why not? So I just go there and say, I love Arsenal. And it started almost as a joke. And when I tell people, it took me until 2016 to have a job in sport. Before that, it was my Saturdays, my weekends, my nights, when I worked for SuperSport for 4 years, my holidays, my leave. That is when I would do sport. But people don't know that Radul was a desk journalist. That Radul started in Mpasho. I was telling someone today, I'm the one who started in Mpasho for Radio Africa. Then we went on to Bamba Sport, which after 2 years had its own financial issues and we had to shut it down. And then I was just in charge of a radio station that had nothing to do with sport. And I tell people I only engage in sport on the weekends. And people don't know that. Why? Because I made a deliberate effort to build a brand around what I was doing on air. I remember in 2010, late 2009 is when SuperSport, they found me at the stadium. And they're like, hey Radul, we have a show we'd like you to host. It's called Simba Super Soccer. And I said, why not? It won't interfere with my day job. And I remember when we were covering the first Mashemeji Derby, they told me, are you on Twitter? I said, Twitter? What would I be doing on Twitter? They said, get on Twitter, because when the game is on, you can engage with the fans in the stadium. And I was like, okay, it can't hurt. And it was a producer, a Kenyan girl from Nyeri, who opened my Twitter account for me. And I remember the first game, we were watching Gor versus AFC, and I'm asking questions on Twitter, and people are responding in the stadium, and I was like, what's this? It was like a culture shock, And it grew from there. And now, luckily, fortunately, I have 1.1 million followers on Twitter. And we talk about sport day in, day out. I remember in 2008 or 9, Roy, when Maina Kageni would come to all of us and say, be my friend on Facebook, be my friend on Facebook. You remember? Be my friend on Facebook, be my friend. And we're like, see, I'm your friend in real life. Why do I need to be your friend on Facebook? See, we talk. He's like, no, be my friend. And we're like, okay, nothing to lose. Join Facebook. And I remember when the first salesperson came and asked our bosses in the certain company, because there was a corporate company that was inquiring whether they could use minor social media for sales, to sell product on minor social media. And they said, what does social media have to do with the radio station? This was way back in 2009, 2010. Yeah. What has Facebook got to do with the radio station?
Do what you want.
Until the day they found out how much that corporate was paying Minor per week. I won't say the figure here. It was 6 figures, and I'm talking 2010. And all of a sudden, the radio station took notice, which is why I like forums like this, so that you don't sleep as things are happening. You try and catch them before they even take off. And by the time the radio station tried to regulate how we use our social media, it was too late. My first client on social media was Guinness. I think it was in 2012 or 2013. and they were marketing an app for football. And I was like, what? And they were paying me 40,000 shillings a month. I was like, what? I was excited. And it grew from there. And then I began to make a deliberate effort to grow my brand. One of the first things I did, make sure your name is the same on every platform. This thing of using names that are not yours, it's tough to build a brand when you're using a name that's not yours. Be proud of the brand that you have created, brand you. I was fortunate in my day, I had radio to make me known first. Nowadays, people are trying to get known on social media alone. It's a little bit harder, but it's very doable. When people inbox me and tell me, Radul, I need a job, Radul, I need a job, and there are many, every single day, if I look in my inbox now, I'm like, I wish, knowing what I know now, that I was growing up in a digital age. I would not be looking for a job at Nation or Standard or wherever. I'd be creating content for myself, to market myself, to make money for myself. And unfortunately, somebody raised here about education and educating journalists. I don't know whether it's in the curriculum right now at KIMC and all these other institutions to teach them on social media so that they don't come out of, I don't know how